Hello, everybody. I'm Jesse Waters, along with Kimberly Guilfoyle, Juan Williams, Lisa Booth, and Greg Gutfeld. It's 5 o'clock in New York City, and this is The Five. Yesterday, White House Chief of Staff John Kelly delivered one of the most emotional and powerful speeches ever in the White House press room. A strong defense of President Trump's call to the widow of a fallen soldier. He lost his own son to war 7 years ago. Tonight, we have the stunning reaction of the Congresswoman at the center of that phone call firestorm. Frederica Wilson seems to be enjoying the spotlight.
You mean to tell me that I have become so important that the White House is following me and my word? This is amazing. That's amazing. That is absolutely phenomenal. I have to tell my kids that I'm a rock star now.
Wow, rock star. She also made some serious charges after General Kelly accused her of politicizing the deaths of soldiers.
I heard his remarks, and I heard him say that I bragged that I secured the money for the building of the FBI building in Miramar. And that's a lie.
Well, his point was, I think, that, and though you're right, he didn't get the facts right on that, was that empty barrels make the most noise.
That's a racist term, too. I'm thinking about that when we looked it up in the dictionary because I had never heard of an empty barrel. And I don't like to be dragged into something like that.
Okay, empty barrel is racist, Gutfeld. That is news to me.
Yeah, well, everything is racist these days. Stories like these are turning people inside out, and I hate that we do them. I don't want to do these stories. I said it yesterday. No one walks away from these stories feeling any better about themselves or about the people they like or dislike. You just feel bad. I mean, Joy Reid, I don't know anything about her, but I look at these tweets that she has. This one where she says, this is amazing to me.
Right here.
General Kelly grew up in segregated Boston in an Irish Catholic neighborhood where women were bullied and blacks scorned and rejected. So she just labeled Irish Catholics racist and misogynist, and by connection to that group, General Kelly. And this is a person that the media often asks, why doesn't she have her own show? But this is acceptable now. You can just call anybody or smear anybody as racist, and people just run in fear. And it's so sad. The only thing that can save us from these stories, these emotional spasms, sadly, is real news. We are living in a superficial, ongoing squabble. But when there's a hurricane or a terror attack, we suddenly realize what's good. And that's what's real in life. And that's the sadness. Other countries wish they had these problems. They wish they had this time to sit here and talk about these ridiculous emotional conflicts. It's pathetic.
And Joy Reid was referencing something was said on MSNBC. Let's play it and have Kim react to it.
When John Kelly was going to school in Oak Square in Brighton, in the Boston Irish neighborhood that he grew up in, the schools were segregated by custom and practice. John Kelly never sat beside a student like Frederica Wilson in his elementary school. It was a neighborhood in which calling someone who looked like Frederica Wilson an empty barrel was the kindest thing that would have been said about her. You know what wasn't sacred when he was a kid growing up, where he was growing up? Black women. Or black people.
How irresponsible.
It's so racist and awful and horrific, these kind of comments. I take personal issue with it as an Irish, Puerto Rican, double Catholic. To sit there in judgment and make these statements about someone who has served our country faithfully, has lost his son, and continues to serve this country in an admirable way, what are these people thinking? Do they realize how awful this makes them look and sound and really shows what's in their core? I mean, that's what's so disturbing to me.
And CNN fact-checked whether double or empty barrel was racist, Juan, and they looked at Plato and Shakespeare. Abraham Lincoln used the phrase. They consulted etymology experts as well as the American Dialect Society, and they found no relationship to racism ever with that phrase.
I was puzzled myself. So when I walked in, I said this to Greg. I said, how did race get in? I mean, I don't like it, you know, when people say something that is, to my mind, without foundation, especially with regard to race, because to me, it then cheapens the whole thing, because I think we have racism in this country. But I just wanted to say, so I think this has become like a scrum now. Everybody's just kind of jumping in. But I tend to, given the way I look at the world, want to get to the facts.
Okay.
And so when when General Kelly says, oh, she took credit for the funding for the FBI headquarters in Miramar, Florida, I thought, well, so maybe that's what he means by empty barrel, is she takes credits for things that she didn't do. Then a video comes out and it shows that she did not take credit for it and he was wrong. This is, to me, reminding of what happened yesterday when I thought, and President Trump had tweeted, that she had fabricated everything with regard to this conversation. He said it was a secret conversation between him and the widow. Well, then it comes out, no, General Kelly says, no, that President Trump did say, the soldier knew what he was buying into when he went, because he enlisted of his own volition. Well, it turns out Frederica Wilson was right again. So I think to myself, wow, why are people beating up Frederica Wilson when she, in fact, has been right twice?
No, they're beating up Frederica Wilson because she's essentially hanging her hat on this horrible issue to try to get national attention and to build up her name, as evidenced by what she said on air, that now she is a rock star, and what a despicable way to become a household name for this very issue. And I think, does anyone else feel like we've hit rock bottom in society? This entire week, I just has felt so dirty. And I think John Kelly came out there yesterday, and what he said was so sobering. And what I think we saw from him was just a desperation to get back to a place of society where there's respect, where there's dignity, where anything is sacred. And what I find so sad is that another widow of a fallen soldier felt so compelled because of this pile-on of President Trump to release a private conversation that she had with the president, where he told her that her husband was a hero, come to the White House anytime. She said that at such a low point, she felt like she was just talking to another human. And I just think we've reached such a sad place as society that this is now a week-long story. And now someone like General Kelly, who has served this country so valiantly, is now under attack and being labeled racist. It is all just so disgusting and so dirty.
Well, it is disgusting. That's why I say I think when you make these charges, you better know what you're talking about, because it has real weight. Otherwise, I think it disparages people unnecessarily. But I will say that the woman that you're talking about said that the president spoke to her in a way that was comforting. But this week, we've also learned what he apparently promised some guy $25,000 and didn't pay until this week, the family. And don't forget, he's had a situation now with the woman who, Frederica Wilson, the congresswoman, where his account really varies from the reality. The mother of the dead soldier said she was offended by what the president said.
A few things, Juan, just to make sure we have all the facts correct. President Obama had to also say the checks in the mail when he made some promises about giving money to some fallen people as well. We have a transcript of the remarks that Ms. Wilson gave, and she seems to take a little bit of credit. Here's what she says. Everybody said it was impossible. I went into attack mode. I went to the speaker. I presented it. I dashed it over to the Senate, and I put the senators on notice. I put it on their radar.
But Jesse,
you know what, Juan?
What are you talking about?
I'm talking about the speech that
no, you're not talking about
was referenced
the
by General Kelly.
That's not right.
To put the name on the building.
You're not playing straight.
That's what I'm talking about. I am playing straight.
Let me tell you. Let me tell you why you're not playing straight.
Event.
Let me tell you.
Maybe she didn't say it on the stage.
No.
But maybe General Kelly heard her bragging about it
But do
off
actions
camera.
not matter?
Hold on. And that was referenced at the briefing today, and Sarah Huckabee Sanders had a response.
General Kelly said he was stunned that Representative Wilson made comments at a building dedication honoring slain FBI agents about her own actions in Congress, including lobbying former President Obama on legislation. As General Kelly pointed out, if you're able to make a sacred act like honoring American heroes all about yourself, you're an empty barrel. If you don't understand that reference, I'll put it a little more simply. As we say in the South, all hat, no cattle.
Well, in fact, have you seen the speech?
I have.
And then you know that most of it was her effusively praising these FBI agents. And when she was talking about what she did in Congress, she was not talking about securing $20 million.
What he said, there was a lot of grandstanding. He was stunned that she had taken that opportunity to make it about herself.
My goodness. Now, Jesse, you see what that was?
Yes.
She was talking about her ability to get the building named for 2 slain FBI agents, not the funding. So when you're
okay,
reading
so-
that, you're deceiving the audience.
No, I'm not deceiving the audience. She's acting like a braggart and taking credit.
You know what I say?
The event did not call for that.
You know what I say? I say it's all unicorn, no horn. Look, can we all agree
pretty.
that these stories are like, what happens is these are bad stories because whether it's football, kneeling, or it's funerals, once it's infused with politics, and the next step is racial politics, and we start picking at the scab, and we can't stop till another scab erupts, and then we pick at that. We don't know where do we want to end up with identity politics? If America is eternally eating each other alive, what is the solution? What does the social stop? And it's incumbent upon the media as well to say, who cares if this is good for ratings? It's bad for the country.
Wow, that's strong. But don't you think that Donald Trump plays it?
I think we're all guilty.
Okay.
But also, I don't know
And
why
the
she
media
has
has not
any...
let this go.
No, absolutely. But what does she have to gain by this kind of behavior and, just really horrific towards Gold Star families, racist towards General Kelly, stepping on the backs of Gold Star families? I don't like it at all. And I'm quite certain the American people don't like it. It's very much so conduct unbecoming.
And General Kelly is a Gold Star parent.
Yes,
and
that's
now
what
he
I'm
is
saying.
under attack. So there you have it. The liberal media is trying to twist the Clinton uranium scandal to make it go away. See how next.
Instead of focusing on the Clinton uranium scandal, a scheme organized by Russia to benefit the Clintons, the far-left media is mostly ignoring the story and, of course, mocking President Trump instead.
What do you make of this sort of yearning obsession with Hillary Clinton? It's sad, but also a little frightening at this point.
Look, there's a moral vacuum in the White House right now, and when the president is tweeting about a political opponent from a year ago, it is inexplicable.
I'm sorry, what did you just say, Greg?
Those two make me throw up?
Correct.
Yes.
Oh, you know what?
Carry on.
They were talking. No, they talk about how Trump has some yearning obsession with Hillary. They have Trump tattooed on their brain. It's like what's his name? Morning Joe. He's like a spurned lover. He's like, you know what he is? He's like the runner-up bachelorette. After the rejection, and they try to pretend like it doesn't matter, but it's on their face that it's driving him crazy that they didn't get picked.
They're crying in the limo.
In the limo.
It's like,
He's crying in the limo.
If you ain't first,
We've all been there, though. We've all cried in a limo.
Speak for yourself.
Go on.
You made people cry in a limo.
In a nice way. Lisa.
Joy.
Cheers. Thanks, Jess.
No, I mean, can we just fathom for a minute if this was the Trump administration and all this stuff was going on, the fact that the Justice Department had this investigation going on, and mind you, Hillary Clinton was sitting on the board that approved the Uranium One deal and was also Secretary of State at the time, not to mention the fact that some of these individuals, these shareholders of Uranium One, gave $145 million to the Clinton Foundation.
Yeah.
I mean, can we just imagine for a minute if the shoe was on the other foot and how nuts some of those very people that we just showed would be going right now? I guarantee this is not in Hillary Clinton's book, What Happened, yet she was talking about all the other Russia stuff that there's no evidence of. It's just a complete and utter double standard.
It really is. I mean, and how about this story should be #1, top of the line, covered, investigated. There's actual meat on those bones.
There sure are. And, I agree with Tim Kaine. There is a moral vacuum in the country. It's not at the White House. It's over at MSNBC. You have hard news journalists at respective outlets reporting that there is a pay-for-play deal with the Clintons and the Russians, and you have Hillary's running mate teed up to ask about that. And then you don't even ask about it. You try to divert. I mean, come on. Bill Clinton was in Moscow. Bill's taking $500,000. She's signing off on deals. Everyone's getting rich, and no one cares. And I get that certain shows are soft on Trump. I get certain shows are hard on Trump. But they were so clumsy and blatant about diverting this away to protect the Democrats that it makes you think, come on, you guys have no credibility anymore. And he's right. They are like spurn lovers. What is it? Trump is obsessed with Hillary. Hillary wrote a book What happened for the last
And
year
she still
and a half
doesn't know
she's
what
obsessed.
happened. She can't figure it out.
Obama spent years blaming Bush. Talk about obsession. That's the real obsession.
Juan?
Well, so, let me, as a Democrat sitting here, let me just make the case against the Clintons. Because you're talking about credibility.
Please.
I think
Take the
that
floor.
when you have a
all you.
foundation and you have a foundation taking money from people overseas, it's going to invite suspicion of quid pro quo activity, especially when the wife of the person who's running the foundation is Secretary of State of the United States. But
Preach.
Let me just say this. So I'm very curious about this story because my suspicion initially was this is politics, that Trump is under investigation on the Russia stuff, so he's throwing this stuff out there. The right-wing media, all the right-wing media sites are hot for this story. Let me check it out. Let me see. Well, it turns out this story was broken more than a year ago by the left-wing New York Times. So the story's been 2 years. It's been out there. Okay, second thing, when people asked the FBI agents who were around at the time about it, including agents in charge, they said, we didn't even know about it. It's possible that Clinton didn't know about it. Third, there's a whole committee of people, including Eric Holey, Attorney General, and others on this Committee of Foreign Investments that had to make the call, not just Hillary Clinton.
But it's not just this. It's also things like Fusion GPS.
Right.
The Wall Street Journal editorial board had an article about this where there's just this complete nobody is interested in the mainstream media about Fusion GPS and the dossier and what role it had in spurring a federal investigation. And so the Wall Street Journal is basically writing this editorial board and pay attention to this, but nobody is.
I go back to the simple question. Does America really need money that bad to sell uranium to Russia? It's like selling crack to Charlie Sheen. Nothing good comes from it. We have other things that we can sell. Why don't we sell them to the NFL?
Oh, gosh. All right, Greg. I waited for that. Two former presidents blasting the current state of politics in America. Their words and more of you-know-who next.
Yesterday, two former presidents stepped back into the spotlight to weigh in on current affairs and today's political climate in America. Barack Obama and George W. Bush making headlines with their remarks at two separate public events.
In recent decades, public confidence in our institutions has declined. Our governing class has often been paralyzed in the face of obvious and pressing needs. The American dream of upward mobility seems out of reach for some who feel left behind in a changing economy. Discontent deepened and sharpened partisan conflicts. Bigotry seems emboldened. Our politics seems more vulnerable to conspiracy theories and outright fabrication.
Instead of our politics reflecting our values, we've got politics infecting our communities. Instead of looking for ways to work together and get things done in a practical way, we've got folks who are deliberately trying to make folks angry, to demonize people who have different ideas.
Jesse, here you have the two former presidents speaking out, Republican, Democrat. You heard earlier in the week from Senator McCain. Bob Corker has said stuff. It seems like everyone's saying something. Sometimes they don't mention President Trump by name, but they all seem to be talking about him.
Right, because Trumpism is a rejection of Obama policies and Bush policies. Everything that's come under attack, think about it. Comprehensive immigration reform, Obamacare, trade deals, climate deals, nuclear deals, NATO, nation building. And not only that, Trump's gone after institutions. He's gone after the CIA, the FBI, the military-industrial complex, the RNC, the DNC, and his attacks against Bush, I think he took him personally. Remember, he went after Jeb pretty harshly, daddy's boy, all that stuff. He made a couple comments about 9/11 and the debate in South Carolina that were quite personal. And he's gone after President Obama relentlessly, especially talking about his legacy under attack, the Iran deal, Obamacare, everything has been ripped to shreds almost. So it's not only policy, too. Their demeanors are totally different. You have Bush, who came up as an elitist, from a political family whose family was about public service. President Obama, mixed race, raised in Hawaii by his grandparents, more of a community organizer. And then you just have a brash businessman that grew up in Queens, hyper-competitive and much more rough and gruff than these guys. And he doesn't play by the rules. So I don't mind hearing W and Obama say these things. I didn't think these attacks were that sharp. So I think it's fine. They're getting paid very well. They got to give the crowd a little rough, red meat.
Lisa, do you think that there's any? So the way Jesse sees it is, it's personal.
A little bit, and policy.
Okay, but I was thinking they're not talking about policy, or they're not even talking in personal terms. They're saying something's wrong in the country when we have this much division, where people are demonized by each other, and in one case that it's blasphemy. One president said when you have white supremacy being bantered about.
Well, I mean, you also saw President Obama pass something like Obamacare on party lines, which is deeply divisive, right? So, I mean, you can go, and George W. Bush also said that these things have been happening for a really long time in this country. And all you have to do is look at Congress throughout the previous administrations. The blockade there, the partisanship in Congress has been something that's been going on for a long time. You look at something like racial tensions that Gallup has been tracking, and it's been increasing year after year, even under the Obama administration. There were polls during the Obama administration saying that racial tensions have gotten significantly worse under his watch. So I don't think that it's fair to point to President Trump as somehow the root of all these problems that have been existing for a while. And you even look at the partisanship and divide in both the parties. The fact Republicans had 17 candidates in the Republican Party. The fact that the DNC was on board with Hillary Clinton, which sowed a lot of division in the Democratic Party. So I just think it is unfair to point to Trump.
So, Greg,
President Trump, rather, sorry.
Greg, I come to you on this point that President Bush said he thinks that our politics have fallen prey to conspiracy theories and outright fabrication at this moment, again, under Trump.
I think it's under all presidents that there's been conspiracies. I've heard enough of them. There's nothing wrong with this country. It's actually us as part of the media academic complex. That's where the division is coming from, the way news is covered on CNN and that's so division in terms of justice and criminal and law and order. As for President Obama talking about how politics has infected our communities, he was a community organizer. That was his job, to infuse communities with politics. Yep. The point is, he only favors a certain kind of activation. He liked it when it happens among progressives, not so much among conservatives. Now to George Bush, who I admire. His words were thoughtful, perhaps more about Bannon than Trump, but he is referring to words and not deeds. If you look at what's happening right now under President Trump, we've not invaded a country. China's involved in dealing with North Korea. We have a highly competent responses to hurricanes. We pulled out of a terrible climate deal. We are routing, destroying ISIS. We've rolled back regulation with no consequences. There has been no large terror attack like 9/11. So one could argue, for now, knock on wood,
Jeez.
we can argue that things are better now than they were under either of those presidents. You could argue that. I'm not going to argue that. But what I'm saying is that what they are focusing on, they're focusing on the same things that we talked about in the A block, that it exists in this media academic bubble. Emotional conflicts and arguments and dissent, arguments over phone calls and kneeling and tweets. But actual deeds, actual things that are happening in the world. How has your life changed? If you look at your 401k, it's probably getting better. The terrorists are vanishing. That's a good thing. Consumer confidence is rising and unemployment is down. These are actions and deeds. These are not emotions. So I would say they are right about a certain mood if you are existing in a certain bubble. But when you get out, people's lives are improving.
But don't you think that's why the focus is on all this other stuff?
You know what, Kimber?
Maybe.
Yeah. So the thing is that I prefer to not have, either of the former presidents, speak to this issue. I think, to be fair, the right thing to do is to give President Trump and this country and Congress a chance to continue to move forward. That's the policy usually that people have embraced and shown in a very professional way, and I think the country would appreciate that. But that being said, they're entitled to their opinion, and it, I think, is a matter of policy as well. But let's see what happens.
Thanks, Kimber. Wonder where Miss Dana Perino is today?
No.
Oh, my gosh. She's at the White House, and you're going to find out why. We're going to check in with Dana next.
If you follow the man, he got tomorrow, but if he off the
Tonight, I'm sitting in for Dana Perino's chair, obviously. I'm not her. She's down in Washington, D.C., where she just wrapped up an interview with White House Press Secretary Sarah Huckabee Sanders. The interview will air on Fox News Sunday this weekend, and Dana's sitting in for Chris Wallace, which is so cool. She joins us now for a preview. Hey, Dana.
Hi, how are you guys?
Doing well. So, Dana, you obviously have such a cool perspective sitting down with Sarah Huckabee Sanders, having held that job yourself. What can we expect from this interview?
Well, I wanted to do something like I did with Josh Earnest back in December for The Five, which is to just take it out of news of the day and just talk about what it's like to have the job. So she's the third woman to have the job, the second Republican woman, but she is the first working mother to ever be White House press secretary. And so I asked her a little bit about that and how she manages with 3 children under the age of 5 or 5 and under. And I have to say, it was quite a fun homecoming to come back. There's a lot of reporters here and crew that I knew when I worked here. And then just to meet some of her staff and to see how she runs a really good shop where they're having a little bit of fun, but they know they've got important work to do.
Very cool. And Dana, I think Jesse's got a question for you.
Okay.
Sure, let's get to the nitty-gritty here. We want some color. Ms. Perino, what did you have for lunch? Did you eat at the White House, and was it good? What's changed? Did you go behind the podium and reminisce? And
Well,
what is everybody gossiping about? Are they talking about how they love the 5 at the White House?
Oh, yeah, definitely. That was the first thing everybody told me. But actually, I wish I had a picture to show you. I will bring you one. So after the interview, I didn't actually eat lunch here. I actually didn't eat lunch, but I'm going to fix that in just a minute. I came here after the daily briefing, my daily briefing show, and her briefing. We spent about an hour and a half together. But then afterwards, I was in the briefing room. We're waiting for this hit, and guess who comes in? Jack Hanna. He got to get Jack Hanna, and he got to have a picture with Felt Jasper. So I'm pretty sure I made his day.
Oh, perfect end to a perfect day.
All right, Greg.
I'm glad, Dana.
I thought you had a question.
I'm glad you accepted filling in on Fox News Sunday after I turned it down. As you know, for me, Sunday is the day of the Lord. It's when I rest. But far be it from you to turn it down.
What is wrong with
I have a question for you.
Good gosh.
Sarah Huckabee Sanders, obviously she has a famous dad. Could you ask her what it's like to have a socialist for a father who lost horribly to Hillary, who cheated him out of the nomination?
No, I don't think so. But I did talk to her a little bit about her dad. And
Bernie.
I know who you're talking about.
Well, answer the question. Why are you evading the question?
Oh my gosh.
It's such I'm feeling a lot like Ed Henry right now.
Boo!
Boo!
Dana's showing off those press secretary skills by deflecting these crazy questions.
Okay.
All right, Kimberly, please help us out here. We need help.
Over there lost his turn. All right, Dana, so happy to see you, and we're really excited about you hosting this weekend. Excited about, I know that you really wanted to get the interview with Sarah Sanders, so that's going to be really compelling to see the two of you sit down and discuss you having had the job and her in the position. Now,
you should stand.
Go away.
Don't sit down.
What else do you have in store? What's on the rundown for Sunday?
Okay, so this is pretty exciting. I'm doing this for 1 week only. Chris Wallace is going to be back. They'll probably never let me do it again. But in the meantime, for Sunday, the OMB director, Mick Mulvaney, is going to be on, and it's pretty good timing because the Senate Republicans just passed that budget, which gives them that clear runway for tax reform. So we have him. I have Senator Mitch McConnell. I have somebody that you know, the Attorney General of California, Xavier Becerra, who's got a lot of beefs with this administration.
Xavier.
And then Sarah Sanders for a fun little segment. And I hope people tune in because they see her every day at the briefing, but I think you'll see just yet another dimension to her where she's really warm, smart, a great mom, and really loves this country and what she's doing. So I love sitting with her. And then I'll have a panel with Jason Chaffetz, Continetti, Juan Williams, and somebody else, Julie Pace of the AP.
All right, fantastic.
I think Juan wants to know what you're going to ask him.
Juan,
That's always helpful. That's always helpful. Dana, you know, one of the things I always am amazed at when I get back in the briefing room is how many people now are in that room. It used to be a pretty select group of reporters, but now, this is going to sound awful to people, but it's like a cattle call in there at the moment, I think. How does it strike you?
Well, this is a very rare Friday afternoon because it's quiet. As Sarah Sanders told me, that usually on Fridays there's some big news. They've done a lot of firings on Fridays, and so there's been lots of things happening. Tonight, actually, Erin Landers and I and Hair and Makeup are the only ones in here.
Hey, did you ask her about, the previous boss, Sean Spicer?
Well, the one thing I asked her was that, I said, what was it like when you became the press secretary? Because I think some people, if they think they want to have this job one day, they imagine that when you get the job, it's like some big, fabulous thing where the stars come out and there's a band and it's this beautiful Cinderella story. My story wasn't like that, and certainly hers was not, because she said there was about 4 hours between thinking that Sean Spicer was a press secretary and her finding out it was going to be her. But she said that she really appreciated that Sean was here for, I think, another 6 weeks or so, and that it really helped her with the transition.
Well, Dana, we're all looking forward to watching you. We know you're going to do great.
Thanks, and I'll be back on Monday.
Awesome.
Yay!
All right, well,
Bye.
make sure to catch Dana's interview with Sarah Huckabee Sanders on Fox News Sunday at 2 p.m. Eastern. Facebook Friday is coming up next, so don't go anywhere.
Tonight, it's Facebook Friday. Your questions answered now. All right, this is a great question. And a question only the 5 could answer, from Jerry T. What is the most embarrassing moment that has happened to each of you while on the air? Juan.
Oh, boy. So on this show?
I know, a lot to choose from, Juan.
Yeah, that's true. I have a whole life.
You mean this week?
That's right.
This show. No,
Yeah.
I'm kidding. Joking. I'm joking.
Well, I think the worst is when Fox was getting started in the Washington Bureau, there were some hearings going on, and Brit Hume was hosting. So I was there with Brit as the commentator, arguing with Brit about what was taking place. And then Brit said, hey, can you just hold this for a second? I said, okay. So suddenly I'm on the air, nobody's there, and I found myself trying to vamp and I'm thinking, what is going on? And when Brit got back, he's like, what are you doing? I was like, wait, I'm doing what you told me to do.
I think I saw this.
Oh my God, what is going on?
That's
It was
amazing.
it's so crazy. We gotta find that
Kimberly?
clip. What?
Come on.
I mean,
Cough it up.
Okay, so embarrassing or like gross or
Gross is good.
totally. Okay, so probably New Year's Eve, remember? At midnight.
You were kissed. Yes.
Correct.
Yes.
Twice.
Correct.
Yes.
Oh, man.
Kinda
America.
Put that behind me.
Yes.
That's his life.
Jesse?
Most embarrassing moment on air? Google me. Go for it.
There's a highlight reel.
Where do I begin?
There's a website.
What about when I wore the short suit on Outnumbered?
Oh, well, yeah, that we bought you at J. Crew.
Yes.
That was hilarious. It was like
Never.
a seersucker little pantsuit, like a little boy suit with like little shorts and.
Yeah, a little too short. Were the shorts?
Yeah, it was.
What
that was
about-
a little special.
What about that pink jacket?
Juan, that was dashing.
No, he
How
thinks
dare you?
Lisa, what about you?
Ron Burgundy one.
Well, I'm sure I've done embarrassing things like every time I'm on TV, but 2 things I remember specifically. I was trying to explain the appropriations process, and I was just kind of getting started in this. And I was on Lou Dobbs, and Lou Dobbs looks at me and he goes, Lisa, do you think everyone's eyes are glazed over?
No.
Swear to God. And I was just kind of starting out, so I was like, oh my God, where'd I go
When
from?
Lou
How do you
Dobbs
recover?
says you're boring, that's boring.
And then another time I tried to say recidivism, but it took me like I was on Outnumbered. I swear it probably took me like 5 or 6 times. I think I eventually got it, but it was almost at that point like you have to get it because it's just so embarrassing
Red's
and it took
eyes
so
just
long.
glazed over.
No, I was also on Lou Dobbs. I tripped and fell.
Ew.
Am I not picking up?
Thank you for laughing.
Not a far fall.
My most embarrassing, Hannity and Combs, when I was living in London. So it was like at 9 o'clock, so it's like 6 hours. So it was like 3 a.m. Obviously, the pubs had closed. And I was up there, and I was sitting up there alone, and I was, let's just say, if you could probably look it up and find it.
All right.
But Combs saved me because I was trying to say a word, but I was like so out of it, I couldn't say the word because I was nervous. And he dove in and took it away.
Yeah, you were nervous.
Yes, I was
That's
nervous.
What we're calling it.
There's going to be a lot of Googling after this.
Bob
segment.
J asks, if you could be inside the mind of one person for a day, who would you choose? Jesse.
yours, Gutfeld. And I would need more than one day to figure out what was going on.
You'd find some strange things.
I would.
You'd find some answers to some disturbing mysteries.
None of which I needed to know.
Exactly. Those strange disappearances in a cornfield. Kimberly.
Be excited. I'm going to pick you.
Oh,
for
really?
Once. And I would actually then feel so much even better about what's going on with me if I was inside your head. I'm like, okay.
There's a lot of room in here. It's very spacious inside this brain.
What about you, Lisa? Any head you'd want to be inside?
I think the president. It would just be fun. Why not?
Yeah, no, good choice.
One.
You know, I would pick somebody that I find highly competitive, like to the point where, you know, I mean, so in my lifetime, it'd be people like Larry Bird, Michael Jordan, Tom Brady.
Athlete, then.
Because I'd like to know how they see the field. Because I remember once reading...
Joe Montana.
Yeah, Bill Bradley. Remember the former great basketball player for the Knicks and Princeton? There was a book about him by John McPhee, and it talked about just seeing things differently. People talk about the hockey player Wayne Gretzky, that he didn't see the puck, he saw where the puck was going to be. And I'd like to have that experience.
I would like to be in the heads of all my fans. Oh, this is real quick. If this is from Colonel F, Colonel C,
Colon.
No.
Can't take you 30
no,
seconds
it's not.
to say the name.
It's not spelled that way. It's an actual name.
Okay, go.
All right.
Jeez, no pressure.
If you were all on the original Star Trek television series, which roles would you envision yourself in? Quickly, Kimberly.
I mean, the captain, obviously.
You mean what's his name?
Captain Kirk.
There you go. One.
I'd like to be Spock.
Those are the only two characters I know. Spock or Kirk.
I don't know if I've ever watched a full episode.
Really?
Yeah.
No, nobody?
Sorry, I don't know. Who would I want to be?
Well, I'm obviously gonna say Obi-Wan. Anyway.
That's Star Wars.
Gosh, what a fail. Poor Greg.
Why? One more thing.
They're creepy and they're kooky.
It's time now for one more thing. I smell a good one, KJ.
You do indeed.
Sorry about that.
Hey, it's time. Ruining it again. Yeah, there it is. It's time for Kimberly's Food Court. And I even gave you one of these to eat.
That's the problem.
Chick-fil-A. So Jesse's enjoying, Juan again, Lisa, Greg, a little snack. So Chick-fil-A is doing this whole new spicy thing here, but now I guess you can't get it in New York, but these taste fine, good enough. So the fast food war just got a little hotter because they announced they are testing 2 new flavors, Greg, so this is gonna upset your stomach, in response to customers' requests for spicy, right? People love the spice. Their spicy chicken strips and grilled spicy chicken deluxe sandwich are being tested in select markets for a limited time. How's it taste? Good?
So good.
They're seasoned with a blend of peppers, and the spicy chicken deluxe sandwich has a new cilantro lime sauce. All right, so
Jesse
feast
Waters
on
approved.
that. Cheers.
I don't know how I'm going to top this, but this is how.
Oh, you got to go to Philadelphia.
I have all 5 current living presidents on my show this weekend.
Nice.
Yes, indeed. I am live Saturday night. Everybody, including Jimmy Carter, will be on my show, Waters World. Just kidding. We're taking them live for a relief concert during the 8 o'clock hour, but they're going to be doing lots of fun presidential things. So make sure to tune into Waters World Saturday, 8 o'clock.
That's interesting.
Greg Gutfeld.
That's a lot of presidents.
Do you have anything good, Greg?
Yes, I do. Thanks for asking, Kimberly.
You're welcome.
The Greg Gutfeld Show tomorrow at 10 p.m. We're going to have the guy who killed Bin Laden. That's the guy on the left, Rob O'Neill. Small accomplishment. And then first-time guest Katie Freites, Catherine Timp, and, of course, Tyrus. But today is a very special day. It's my favorite holiday. It's International Sloth Day, celebration of all things sloth. I was very upset with Fox News because we did not get the day off. We had to come in at work on International Sloth Day.
Didn't you do this before?
It's the slowest mammal. Did you know that? It sleeps 15 to 20 hours a day, much like Lou Dobbs. Can't get him out of bed. And they're surprisingly good swimmers. They sometimes fall directly from rainforest trees into rivers and stroke efficiently with their long arms. I apologize to anybody who might find that offensive. But
You
they're
like
sloths.
sloths, though, you know?
All right.
They are.
I haven't
Juan?
missed that one.
They have sticky claws.
Can you top that?
Well, I couldn't try. Because I agree we should have had the day off. The annual Al Smith dinner was last night here in New York. It brought some of Washington's most powerful politicians to the big city. Great event with top leaders of the Catholic Church and a lot of laughs. And this year, the star role went to the Speaker of the House, Paul Ryan. He had some fun at President Trump's expense.
The press absolutely misunderstands and never records the big accomplishments of the White House. Look at all the new jobs that the president has created, just among the White House staff. Every morning, I wake up in my office and I scroll Twitter to see which tweets that I'll have to pretend that I did not see later on.
He was pretty funny. He got great reviews, by the way, from all the politicians. Everybody loved it.
That was pretty good. Okay, Lisa.
All right, we've heard of bad news bears, but check out these backyard bears.
What are they doing on a swing?
Playing with their swings.
Why?
Because they're just little cubs.
They're cubs? Hey, that's my swing.
That is Tim Gonklin's home in East Granby, Connecticut, and that was his daughter's swing, and she was concerned because the baby cubs were taking it over. I don't blame her.
Wow, that's what I call
They'll
embarrassing.
eat you. They're cute, but they'll eat you alive.
Don't trust them.
And they will destroy sloths
Yes.
as well. That's who would win in a fight. You stand no chance, Gutfeld.
I was wondering.
All right, set your DVRs. Never miss an episode of The Five. We're going to see you here back on Monday. Special report up next.